There are so many reasons tucked away in the Chinese box. You need to know the tumblers to get to them. Inspiration isn't really enough, which is why I would wish for colleagues, uh, scholars, team. One would investigate what is in the films that have been exposed as having a semiotic of four elements, international films. Another would explain the social network of the people who were behind them and the politics of the people behind them. Still another would show the connectivity of the ideas in the films with what they polled. And yet another would be needed to show the political circumstances that were playing out in the timeline of history and trace back to Fayoum, where Luigi Freddi was introducing Griffith to Mussolini in a counterfeiting then called Fayoum, and understand how the fourth dimensional psychologists of the Cubist and Italian Futurist movement dreamed up the idea of telling a fiction as a historic narrative, as though inventing reality. Bly Sanders is a character who was in this crowd in the 20s, and that's very revealing. And they use an index, like Robert Penn Warren. And when I asked my mother who was Huey Long, she said, read All the King's Men, but that's a fiction, Mom. So you see where the Warren element of the index comes in. So when you look at Luigi, you have to wonder if the CEO, Brian Thompson, wasn't a fop, so that it was like fragging, because Luigi Mangione may be playing the sandbaggers game of establishing the narrative that the perpetrators were in fact not defending the victims, but were the ones behind causing the victims. This is an old sandbagger trick. The sandbaggers covered for the AIDS attack. Sin War, how can anybody miss the name Sin War? And the Where Eagles Dare idea, when they landed on the supernova and demolished the prospect of another Arab Spring that communicated across the lines in the Middle East. Luigi Cardillo plays very significantly in the circumstances under which we got the script, at the same time as we got a dog called Shep. We're put on Winterton Street, and the script comes from Shepperton Studios. The people who were making A Hard Day's Night, especially the old man, were in a long-standing nerve network that goes back to Fayoum. So when you look at Luigi Mangione, you have to consider the possibility of duplicity. He went to the Altoona McDonald's to get arrested. Well, that rules out BDS. He may have had Palestinian eyebrows, but he hired a name brand Jewish attorney from New York. Friedman is a name that is so loud and clear. It's the owner of the house in which I was introduced to the Burston person who was behind the Texas school book script that was sent from Israel. So you have to wonder if this deep agent wasn't exactly that, a deep agent. And they gave him the royal treatment. They gave him a helicopter ride. When you look at the symbol of Rather Us with the U.S. over the swastika that comes out Dangerous Journey, and Rather Us is over the doorway, and the U.S. is over the swastika. You have to stop there and look at it frame by frame. It goes by too fast to see. But Reagan is sitting next to a bust of Hitler with the U.S. over the swastika, and Laurel Canyon, where Houdini lived, Errol Flynn is there. It says "Rather Us," like Lazarus, Blas Sanders, Blaze from the Cinders. And the reason they used it, they created this duplicity of switched loyalties through the Warren Commission, but they were wary enough of soft power, meaning public opinion, that they were discreet in switching the sympathies in the alliance that they were courting, which was the U.S. public. And then they froze people. It's like spotlighting deer, an illegal form of hunting. People go, when you show them the truth, and they can't respond to it, they freeze. But it's all very carefully encrypted in a semiotic that shows Hitler's escape. That's the Lazarus by Sanders, and a fusion with Lenin's Houdini, which they called Casper. And so Axis Revenge, they execute JFK over Hiroshima. That's the third element. And the fourth element is two virgins pussy ball clock to the AIDS attack. And that's all laced up in the presentation of sin, where they use the C and a Star of David as the symbol for the Neva Corporation. Neva Mancine was D.D. Mancine's sister. It was like Manson Cinema, snuff film. Yeah, and the Christ that I crucified in my womb is what Lenin refers to himself as in the script. You could have saved me, Jimmy. And they normalize sex. So these people are the fundamentalist circus who pushed abortion so they could pin the tail on the wrong donkey. And women can't man up about it. I don't know what the problem is. It would be better if the women would say, look, we understand that Mike Johnson thinks that the Gazan children are the same as the unborn children. So he's forcing us into a reckoning of his civics. Well, if the women would man up about it, that would help. But what they do is they get behind the rah-rah of this guy they think is Patton. When the case is red hot, nobody knows for sure what was going on with Luigi. Maybe you should consult your Ouija board.